This dish is the perfect steak sandwich to feed a few hungry mates or to turn into little canapes to feed a whole party. So the first thing we're gonna do is cook our steak. Now, I've talked to you guys about steak before. The most important thing when cooking a steak is letting it come up to temperature, so it's not going into the pan or the barbecue cold. Next, we give it a good seasoning with salt and a good drizzle of olive oil. Just enough to coat it. We don't want to fill our pan with oil. Now, I've got a griddle pan on. This would be great on your barbecue, great on a Weber if you want to get some charcoal flavour into your steak, but it works just as well in a little griddle pan here, or even a fry pan if you didn't have one of these. So we're going to go in, a nice sizzle. And like when we add anything to a pan, we always add it to the pan away from ourselves, so we don't get any splash. And I always give it a little press down just to get it all sticking to our griddle pan. Now we haven't seasoned the other side, so we're just gonna, a nice season of our sea salt. Looks like a lot, but most of it will stick to the pan, so don't stress out too much. Now, I reckon on those steaks in that pan, it's gonna take 2.5 minutes each side to get to the medium rare that I'm after. And while we do that, I'm gonna prep a couple of our other steak sandwich ingredients. The first one, we've just got an iceberg lettuce. The crunch that an iceberg gives in a sandwich, it's second to none. So cut a little cheek off and then slice it nice and finely so we get lots of crunchy bits of iceberg in our steak sanger. Now, our next ingredient, and I guess the sandwich part of this dish, is a baguette. I've got a rustic baguette here, which has got a nice crunchy outside and a nice soft centre. You could definitely toast this in your oven, but I'm not going to. I don't like when you get really crunchy steak sangers and they almost cut your gums a little bit. So let the bread that's been baked today do all the work. So we've got the crunchy outside but the nice soft centre. And I'm gonna cut through just 3/4 of the way. So we're not cutting all the way through. So we can sort of open it up like this to be a nice flat sanger. Now it's time to flip our steak. And look at that. Nice caramelisation. Oh, smells good in here. So I like seeing those nice bar marks on my steak, and when we slice it up, you get little crunchy bits of caramelised meat. So we're gonna give that another 2 minutes on that side, then we're gonna rest it for 2 minutes. So the other ingredients I've got for you, sauerkraut, one of my favourite garnishes or vegetables. It's just fermented cabbage. Cabbage that's been salted and let to ferment for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, up to years. So we've got some sauerkraut. I've got a secret ingredient here, just some French onion dip. I'm going to spread onto the top. It's like adding a mayo, but it's got a little bit more sort of punch to it than a mayo. That, and then some Dijon mustard. So I've got about 2 tablespoons of Dijon here, and I want to use all of that, spread it out. I'm a real stickler for sandwich construction, but the little bit of effort you can put in to make sure you got all the layers right will be full reward when you're eating it. Now, steaks are ready to come out. I said before, it was important to take your steak out and get up to room temperature. Even more important is to let it rest. So at the moment it's all tight and tough and sort of all the moisture's rushed to the centre. If we let that rest for a couple of minutes, it's going to become really tender, all the moisture will redistribute. Now, let's listen to some lovely classical music while these guys rest. That was the Brandenburg Concerto, and that is how you rest a steak. So they're looking really good. It's time to build our steak sandwich. So our lettuce on the bottom, not too much, but you need to have definitely enough on there you get that crunch. That looks about right there. So a nice sort of layer. And then again, as I said before, it's all about the architecture, so make sure any bits that are hanging out the edge get pushed back in. Now we're going to carve our steaks. We're hoping for a perfect medium to medium rare. After that beautiful classical music, it should be there. And we just start carving. Oh, I think we've done it. Just quietly, guys. I think we've got that nice medium rare. Now, you can see I'm slicing it really thin. I want my steak to be really easy to bite through. If you've got a big chunk, try and bite into it. It's going to be really hard to tear through. So that's more of the architecture of a sandwich. Just slicing it nice and thin now. Now I know it's cooked well, I can turn it to the camera. So that steak looks perfect. I'm just going to spread the top layer of our bun with our French onion dip. And again, we want to be quite generous with this. Nice even layer the whole way along. Just gonna get that nice oniony flavour and that bit of creaminess that goes so well with steak. There we go. Nice layer of our French onion dip. Now it's time for the star of the show, our steak. I'm gonna kind of lie it flat, so there's a lot of love that goes into a good steak sandwich. If I do say so myself, the steak is cooked pretty well, And it is definitely all about that resting it, and also about having the steak out to room temperature before it goes into your pan. Nice, generous amount of steak. And then we just top that off with our sauerkraut. This is sort of doing the same job as a pickle does on a burger, just a little bit of acidity to cut through the richness. We've had classical music, and now we've got a classic steak sanger. All right, now to shut it, just press it down and bring our lid over. This is where you have to make your decision on how you cut your steak sandwich. You can go cut it into 3, and that's for you and 3 mates, or for 1 of me. Or you can cut it into nice little bite-sized fingers, like so. Chuck it on a platter, and that's a pretty good canapé. I think it's gonna look good in 3 pieces though. So you cut it up into 3 pieces, and there you have it. 3 beautiful steak sandwiches for you and your mates. Pretty good. I think if this TV show thing doesn't work out, there might be something for me at Subway.